KPIX Channel 5, San Francisco. People Are Talking, live from San Francisco. Today, the true story of Dan White, one day before his release from prison.
People Are Talking.
Well, it was in November of 1978 that we were not in the studio.
No.
KPIX was in their old studios over on Van Ness. You and I had completed the show. It was then called The Morning Show. We had gone to the office, and we were going out to lunch.
When all the sirens began, we thought, what in the world could this be? And it was interesting because it was just 9 days after the Jonestown thing, so we kind of thought maybe it was, you know, something more to do with Jonestown.
I mean, it wasn't just like a fire. I mean, there were sirens everywhere.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
And if you were living in the Bay Area on November 27th of 1978, you probably remember Dianne Feinstein, then the president of the Board of Supervisors, making this statement to the press.
Supervisors, it was my duty to make this announcement. Both Mayor Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk have been shot and killed.
Well, we bring up this tragic event in San Francisco history today because tomorrow, Dan White, the man who killed George Moscone and Harvey Milk, will be released from prison after serving a little more than 5 years for his crimes. What exactly happened on that day that completely shocked this city and the nation? And what took Dan White to City Hall with gun in hand in the first place? With some insight into those City Hall killings, would you please welcome a man who has a new book coming out real soon about those killings called Double Play, Mr. Mike Weiss.
Good morning, Mike. Welcome to People Are Talking. As we were kind of talking about in the open, it was a bizarre day in San Francisco history. 9 days after the Jonestown massacre, we were still reeling from that horror. And then George Moscone and Harvey Milk were shot and killed by Dan White. Can you recount the events of that day for us?
The events of that day?
Yes.
Well, sure. Dan White was at home. The mayor had promised him that he would inform him whether he was going to be appointed to the seat he had resigned, but had not, in fact, informed him. And Dan White was brooding, I suppose, in his house, and he was getting phone calls from an aide of his at City Hall, Denise Apcar, who was telling him each thing that was going on as it happened, and finally he told her to come pick him up. He was going to go down to City Hall and give George and Harvey a piece of his mind.
Now, let me interrupt just one moment for people who may be new to the area and all. Dan White was a supervisor on the Board of Supervisors for San Francisco. He resigned his seat and then decided, no, I want it back, and asked the mayor, George Moscone,
exactly.
Can I have it back?
Yes,
right.
And initially George Moscone had said to him, yes, I will reappoint you. At any rate, Denise Apcar picked up Dan White at his home, and he went down to City Hall with a loaded pistol, 10 extra rounds of ammunition in his pocket, and also a book jacket from a book about Ireland called Ireland, a Terrible Beauty, which he carried with him. And he got to City Hall. His aide dropped him off at the front door. He started up the steps into City Hall.